Okay, today's guest is Madame Rosario Marin, who served as a 41st Treasurer of U.S. government and also State Secretary of State of California State Government. And it's really nice to meet you, Madam, here.
I am delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And because time is limited, let me go directly to the questions.
Well, fine.
Yeah, the keynote speech you delivered yesterday was really good. And first part was about NAFTA, and second part was about your career. So I first want to ask you to tell us about the first part of your speech about NAFTA, and could you briefly summarize what you delivered yesterday?
Of course, I will be delighted. So what happened is, as we're looking at, within the Shanghai Forum, we're looking at what other parts of the world have done to find common ground, and whether it's in trade or other issues. So people were talking about that, and I felt that my contribution was more about what we have done with NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement that was done between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And our experience has been very, very good. There are some, like in everything, there are pros and cons. I believe that there are far many more pros than cons. Trade has quadruple between the three countries. In the United States, we believe that NAFTA is responsible for the creation of over 5 million jobs. And so with that, there is tremendous growth, business opportunities, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. And it spurred tremendous growth, foreign direct investment as well of the three countries. So there are a lot of pluses. Now there are some minuses. Not everything is pink and rosy. Some people would argue that yes, while some jobs were created, some other people lost their jobs. And that is true. That is true. However, overall, more jobs were created than were lost. But of course, when you're the person that lost that job, that's painful, and we understand that. So the challenge for other trade agreements is to ensure that as some jobs move to other entities, that we are doing something to diminish the impact on the people that potentially will lose their jobs. In Mexico, some farmers lost their lands. They lost their jobs because there was a lot more import goods, corn and beef, into Mexico. Some of the farmers lost that. There are concerns about the environment, especially in Mexico, as a result of NAFTA. But the most important thing is, since we know that there would be potential impacts, then how do we prevent them? How do we reduce it? How do we eliminate that? And the framework is there to ensure that if there are going to be negative impacts, that we regulate that. And so I think that the lesson that I think is most important is we know that there will be some downsides. We know that there will be some cons. So within the framework, we are going to ensure that this gets minimized or eliminated so it doesn't happen. So that's the first learning lessons from NAFTA.
You're like a professor when you delivered a speech yesterday. And second question is about your experience as a treasurer, 41st treasurer of the United States government. And tell us about the work you have done, and what is the role of a treasurer? Actually?
So as there are some things that are in law as to what the treasurer does. The treasurer is in charge of securing, producing and securing the money of the United States.
Great. Dollars.
A lot of the dollars.
We like it.
And I signed it. So that's... And also by law, the treasurer is in charge of the U.S. savings program, the savings bond program. One of the things that I added to my portfolio was financial literacy. Because a lot of people, especially in the United States, we have about 10 million people that have never been to a bank, that don't have a checking or a savings account. And when they don't have that and they're not part of the financial system, then it is far more costly for them to do their transactions.
Right. Yeah.
Because they have to go to places that are not banks, and the cost of doing that is far more expensive. And so my job was to help reduce the number of people that are what we call unbanked, that they're not part of the banking system. So I did that. Because I was born in Mexico, I helped a lot also with the relationship between Mexico and the United States. I was the first foreign-born treasurer of the United States, and I was born in Mexico. So President Bush, we call him 43 because 41 was his father. President Bush, he utilized my skills and knowledge to serve also as a connector, if you will, between Mexico and the United States. Yeah. So I had, it was an incredible honor to have your name on the dollar bills and the $5 bills and the 10 and the 100s and all of them, the currency. It was a great honor. But it also comes with a great responsibility.
I see.
And everything, I was part of the Treasury group that would go around the entire nation to sell all the economic policies of the president. I see. So tremendous responsibility. The president would need to trust that I would do a good job in explaining what his policies were and why we needed to do whatever it was that the president was advancing. So I was very honored, and I always tell people that even though I was only there for a couple of years as treasurer.
Yeah, 2001 to 2003. Right. Yeah.
Even though that position, I only held it for 2 years, the responsibility will go with me till the day I die.
I see.
Because I will always be the treasurer of the United States.
Right. So, and the dollar bills also.
And they will always have, well, the ones that continue to circulate, there are many that still have my name.
Still. So in the bottom, the left-hand side is a signature of Secretary
of... On the left-hand side is me.
Oh, left-hand side you.
And on the right is the Secretary of the Treasury, my boss.
So your sign comes first, huh? Wow.
Yes.
Great. Okay, and third question is about your experience as a Secretary of State of California government. And Mr. Schwarzenegger is known to Korea very well as a Terminator. not just the governor, but how is his style? Is he like Terminator when he worked as a governor, or what was he like?
I worked with him for 5 years.
5 years?
Yes. Two working for one of the departments in the Environmental Protection Agency in EPA, and 3 as in his cabinet as Secretary of State and Consumer Services. I oversaw 17 state departments with about 17,000 people. I oversaw the Department of General Services, which is in charge of purchasing all of the goods for the state, everything from pencils to buses, to whatever was needed for the state. I was in charge of the Department of Technology Services, all the computer systems that the state utilizes. I was in charge of 2 pension plans, the CalPERS and CalSTRS. The Department of Consumer Affairs, that department is in charge of all the licensing. Every profession, about 200 professions, doctors, architects, chiropractors, nurses, they all have boards to get their license to practice. And so we have about 45 boards that issued the licenses for all of those different professions. And I oversaw that. It was a huge agency. And I was very, very pleased and honored to work for the state of California. The governor, he's an actor.
Yeah, he was. He is
he
also.
still is.
Still is,
he
right,
went
right.
back to acting.
Yeah.
He had the opportunity, and one of the things that I worked very diligently with, he wanted to be called the Green Governor.
Oh, Green Governor.
And
Wow.
he wanted to green California. And yesterday in the forum, there was a question about that precisely. And he was, so my job was to green the state, the buildings, the everything that we purchase had to be, we had to think about, do we really need to buy this? Instead of buying printers, individual printers for everybody, can we buy but one printer and have 20 people use it instead of one?
Sharing.
Because we need to reduce waste. And so I did that, and I thought he did a very good job in making sure that California was the leader of all the states in climate change legislation. And he always said that we needed to be the leading, the leaders. We couldn't ask businesses to do what the state wouldn't do. So if we were going to lead by example, if we were going to ask businesses to reduce waste, the state had to be the first one to reduce waste.
Wow, great. Yeah, so there should be an example first, and government as a leader should give an example, and it's great. Okay, let's go to the policy issues a little, and these days, American economy is recovering from the worst situation, but people are really worried about the current policies, QE, even if it is done and it is finished. So generally, how do you look at American economy these days?
Well, we're not growing as much as we want. Right now, the growth is 0.8%, 0.08%, so it's not even 1%. That's not growth. That is not good. An economy to be vibrant, we need at least a 4% growth. So we're not growing, and that cannot be the new normal. And we were talking about that yesterday. People were talking about, is this the new normal? I refuse to believe that that's the new normal. We cannot accept that. We need to grow. We need to grow our economy. And government has a lot to do with that. We can have a government that produces an environment where there is more opportunities for businesses to do business. Or government can hamper that environment and can make businesses do business, but far more difficult with overregulation, with many policies that really prevent the small and medium-sized business to really grow. The growth of the economy is really a reflection of their small and medium-sized businesses. If the small and medium-sized businesses are growing, we are going to create employment. If the small businesses shut down and the medium-sized businesses shut down because they're overregulated, we're not going to have growth. And so, to me, it's very, very important that government fosters that environment, and it doesn't hamper it. Doesn't make it more difficult for the small entrepreneur. We have the stock market that is doing very well right now. The stock market recovered. You remember, at one point in time it was about $14,000. Now it's 17.8, I believe, or something like that. 17,800, something like that. So we have far more than recovered from the recession. But the concern, and I that is also my concern. Yes, the stock market has recovered, but it hasn't really reflected on the number of people that at one point in time were employed. And even though we see a 5% unemployment rate, which would be very good, and then the reality is that we have quite a number of people that once they went out of the unemployment rolls, they disappear. It doesn't mean that they got a job. It just meant that the unemployment rolls that they got out of the unemployment roll. In the United States, because we have government services for unemployed people, when you lose a job, you're part of the unemployment roll. You're there and you get some benefits, and it may be for up to 6 months.
6 months.
Okay? After the 6 months, you're off the roll.
Off the roll.
It doesn't mean that you got a job.
Right. Yeah.
It just means that you're off. You finished your benefits. So there are many people who are unemployed that are not counted, and that is a concern. So what we need to do is reactivate our economy, and I believe that government has a lot to do to ensure that more and more small businesses are created, are supported, and are growing.
Great. Yeah. So small businesses and small and medium also.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And America is doing well, doing everything very well, I think. And one of them is restructuring, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
And in Korea, maybe you don't know well about the situation, but restructuring of shipping industry and the marine industry is going on these days. And we are not so good at restructuring, but in America, in the General Motors case, people were very much worried about the situation, but the outcome was really successful, as far as I know. So maybe we should learn from the experience of America about restructuring. And generally speaking, can you give us some advice or general principle about restructuring?
So there was a huge debate when that happened, because clearly, if we believe in free enterprise, we believe, for those of us that believe in free enterprise, is let the market decide who the winners and the losers are, right? So as General Motors was facing very significant challenges, the question was, okay, how much government can or should lend a hand, right? Huge debate, philosophical debate, because in a true market spirit, you let some of these entities fail. And it was the same thing with the banking industry, as you can recall. So there was a huge discussion, huge debate, lots of pros and cons. Many people feeling, no, let the market decide. If they didn't do a good job, they should be gone. Right? And that's a lot easier for us to say, when we're not impacted. But what about the hundreds of thousands of people that depend on that job? And General Motors was clearly a very important part of the industry. So there was the support that was given to them. I think today everybody's very happy that that happened. But there were questions. What do we believe in? And it was exactly the same debate that took place with the banking industry, with the too big to fail, right? So the argument now is some of the banks were too big to fail. We did not allow that. That was fine. But you know who failed? A lot of little banks.
Small banks.
The small banks. So today we have reduced significantly the number of small banks, and we have now the big banks. Now they have become bigger banks, and so there is some question for all of us. What is it that we really want to do when, in fact, the small bank, the small community bank, literally has disappeared, and now we have bigger banks. So now they're all too big to fail. We couldn't allow them to fail anymore. So there's a lot of soul searching, but I think overall we saved the banking industry.
You said.
And it was necessary because that's the foundation of our economy.
Right.
So everything comes at an expense. Nothing is easy, and the answers are not ever so simple. They're not. But we should not allow one particular entity to dictate the entire industry.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you. And let's go to Trump issue, actually. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm asking the question, but as far as I know, Korean people, maybe some of American people are in the same situation, are very shocked about the outcomes. And we just thought that he's abnormal and he will fail very early stage, but now everybody is surprised. So how can you explain it?
Yes, I am both surprised
Yeah.
and embarrassed.
You too.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
I am a Republican. I have been a Republican ever since I became a U.S. citizen.
Oh, I see.
Nobody could ever question my Republican credentials.
Yeah, I saw it in your personal vitae.
I have attended 5 presidential conventions. I have been a delegate. So I've been a workhorse when it comes to Republican politics.
Yes.
I've been the spokesperson of our 5 candidates, presidential candidates of the last 5 times. I've been the spokesperson for the party for 5 times, for 5 presidential campaigns. So when this gentleman decided to run as a Republican, he's not a Republican.
He's not Republican.
He wasn't even a registered Republican until recently. He's been a Democrat. He has been given more than 67% of the money that he has donated to political campaigns have been to Democrats.
Oh, Democrats.
So here he comes, hijacks our party, and he's succeeding.
Yeah.
And I am shocked. I am dismayed and I am embarrassed that he is now the nominee. I will not vote for him. I can't. He has insulted me as a woman. He has insulted me as a Mexican, as an immigrant. He insulted me. I have a son with Down syndrome. He made fun of a reporter that has a disability. You know, I dislike him intensely. In the United States, politicians work hard to earn your vote. Right? He has unearned it. You know, as a Republican, you would have said anybody who's a Republican, I'm going to vote for them. But he has worked hard to unearn my vote.
Unearned, yeah. Yeah. So, but still, as a leader in your society, maybe you have an explanation about the situation. Yeah. So
I do.
maybe. Yeah.
So tragically, he has appealed to a group of people that have been disenfranchised from our system. He has appealed to a block of voters that feel that government hasn't responded to them, that government has not been accountable to them, that these people have been left behind. And he has divided our party. There have already been very strong divisions in the country as a whole. We had expected that with the election of President Obama, that race relations would be better. Today they are worse than 8 years ago.
Really?
Okay? Today there is us versus them, blacks versus white. Regrettably, most regrettably, this now presumptive nominee has exploited even more that. And that's a shame. Because we need somebody that will work to bring us together. We are a divided nation. We are. The haves versus the have-nots, the whites versus the blacks, this versus that. We are. Oftentimes in government, when you say, I am going to do this, 50% of the people like it and 50% don't like it. So it's a very divided nation. And unfortunately, this gentleman, I don't say his name because
I see.
I don't like him. This gentleman has exploited that, and he has appealed to our fears, to our anger, to our resentment. He's not appealing, and you know, I did not vote for President Obama, but he appealed to the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations of people. This gentleman, this presumptive nominee, he appeals to the worst instincts. And that is a shame. And I am ashamed that he is now going to be the Republican candidate.
So is there likelihood that he would be elected as a president?
Oh my God. God forbids. God forbids that he becomes the president. But I am frightened. I am frightened because nobody expected him to be the nominee. We had 17 candidates, and that's our problem. Because when we started and there were 17 candidates, he started with, because of his name and recognition and The Apprentice, and you know, he was very well known for that program. He started with 20%. But the other 80% was divided among 16 people.
16.
So everybody got 10% and 5 and 2 and 1, right? You added it all up. But he started with 20, far more than most of the other ones. So as the campaign get going, he got, you know, we have to remember, he started with 20. 80% didn't like him. 80% didn't vote for him, right? But as he went on, he still got that 20%, and as some other candidates were leaving, some of them were going to him. I believe that if we had had only 3 or 4 candidates, as is usual the case, that he would have never been. But because he also utilized the divide and conquer well-known tactic, he divided the Republicans. And he insulted his way up to the nomination. He insulted everybody, everybody. He insulted every single candidate. He said nasty things about them.
I see. Yeah. Many nasty things he said were reported in Korea also, and many people in Korea were a little shocked by the remarks he made. But anyway, it's almost the same.
Yes.
But his followers, people who like him, and if he is elected as a president, then they can get some benefit from the new president.
So this is what happens. I am hoping that he doesn't become the president.
Okay.
So right now the primaries have been between Democrats and Republicans, but there is a percentage of people that are the independents. They really have not really voted within the Democrats or within the Republicans, but they can vote in the general. So I am hoping that many of this now, when we look at the registration, more voters are registered Democrat than Republican, and then there is this percentage of independents. So I am hoping that he has alienated so many people that the Democrats will not vote for him and the independents will not vote for him. And if that is the case, then he cannot be the president.
I see. So that is what is expected in the remaining
I hope so. And you know, one more thing, within the Hispanic community, there is something that we call the swing states.
Swing state.
And there's about 10 swing states where Latinos, Hispanics, people like me, can make a difference. A lot of the Latinos lived in California and New York and Texas.
Like
and those are pretty well defined. Pretty well defined. Democrat, California will be Democrat. New York will be Democrat. Texas will be Republican. Illinois will be Democrat. We already know. That's where a lot of Latinos are. But in a number of swing states, Colorado, Nevada, Ohio, Florida, just those 4, which are huge states, Latinos can actually make a difference. And so I am hopeful that that portion of Latinos will make a difference so that they go Democrat and and they don't vote for this man.
Okay. So that's
So he won't be the president of the United States.
I see. So it's a really interesting story, and I feel that I was a little shocked. So maybe you too. So I am in the same situation as you, and thank you for giving us some great explanation about the current situation. And time is 5 minutes more. Okay. So maybe let's go to another question. And you are leading Marin LLC, the foundation? Is
That's my company.
company, LLC.
I have a company, but
and what your role and what is the company or the organization is doing?
Yes.
Please explain to us.
Two things. I'm going to talk about two things. One is my company. I do a lot of public. I do consulting for government and political consulting.
I see.
But I also do a lot of public speaking. I go around the world and speak about all kinds of things, including Fudan University.
Oh, yeah.
But I also founded an organization for Latino families that have children with disabilities.
Oh.
And I founded this 30 years ago when my son was born.
Oh, yeah, I see. You talked about the story yesterday.
Yes. Well, you know, it's. I was in banking. And I love banking. And I thought I was going to be in banking all my life. And then my son was born, and he was born with Down syndrome, and it was very difficult because I had to give up my career to take care of him. And when that happened, we had to sell our house because we couldn't make the mortgage payment with one salary, which was my husband's. So I was getting my MBA. I didn't even finish that. And it was very difficult. But you know what? Things happen as they should. If somebody would have told me on those very long and dark nights when you wonder why this is happening to me, that eventually I would help change the laws for people with disabilities, that eventually I would become the mayor of my city, that I would become the treasurer of the United States, or that I would work in the cabinet of a governor, I would not have believed that. But that's what happened. And things happen for a reason. I am very grateful and honored that I have my son. I have 2 other children after him. And even though it's been difficult, I'm very, very lucky.
Thank you very much. And maybe I hope you will have lots of accomplishments in the future.
Thank you.
And maybe last remark to Korean people. Have you been to Korea before?
Never.
Oh, never. Oh,
invite me and I'll come.
Maybe I should.
Well, I will tell you this. My chief of staff, when I was the treasurer, she's from Korea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Shirley
great.
Reed.
Yeah, the Korean people are very good at learning.
I love your food. I love your food. It's
great.
Delicious.
Yeah, so we like inviting great people and having a seminar with some the great conventions also. And maybe
I would be delighted
you are the first candidate in the past. So I hope we can meet in Korea in the future.
You invite me and I would go.
I thank you very much for having an interview with us.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.